Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Peace Today with Judith May. Man, it's kind of crazy out there right now. What can I say? I'm not going to lie to you. I have really been feeling a little bit overwhelmed over the last week or so with what's been going on in the world, but especially in the United States and especially in the state of Minnesota. Um, it's just been overwhelming, and I've been heartbroken. I've been sad. I'm thinking the word is despondent, but I'm not sure that that's the right word. But anyway, I feel like it applies, even though it may not actually be the accurate word that I mean here. But it sounds like it fits. It sounds like it fits. But anyway, somehow I'm in a good mood right now, though. Perhaps that's because I'm here talking to you. You. And if you are someone who's interested in living in a peaceful world, in helping to create a peaceful world, you're in the right place. And I thank you for being here. So, again, one of the things that I'm going to be talking about a lot, I believe, on this program is the topic of light, the nature of light, and by contrast, darkness. And just as a reminder, if you haven't seen my other videos where I speak about this, light is God. God is light. Jesus is light. We find so many references to Jesus as light in the Bible. The reason why the description that I am using for myself, daughter of light, is because I am a child of God. And the reference daughter specifically comes from the story of the woman who receives healing from Jesus after 12 years of having an issue with bleeding, and she just touches the hem of his garment and is healed by her faith, and he refers to her as daughter. And so that's a story that I identify with. I love the fact that Jesus is a healer, that Jesus is a teacher, that Jesus is peace, that he is truth, that he is life, that he is the way, and that he is light. I'm not sure, because I'm really only starting to really deeply read the Bible within the last few months, even though I've always been someone who loves Jesus. I've only really just started reading the Bible deeply within the last few months. And although Jesus refers to himself as the truth, the life, and the way, the truth, the way, and the life, forgive me if I have the words out of order, I'm not sure that he refers to himself as light, but so often there are references to him as light by the authors of the gospel and other authors of books in the New Testament. Jesus is light. Jesus is light, and I'm so grateful to be a daughter of light. I'm claiming that. And so if you are of God, if you're a child of God, if you are a believer of Jesus, then you must follow the light. You must be in alignment with light. And what is light? But truth. Truth and awareness of the truth. I also describe light as consciousness, awareness. You know, like if we think about somebody who's asleep, they're not really aware of the world around them. When you're asleep, you're not actually experiencing, like you're not seeing the room that you're sleeping in. You're not experiencing it visually or even audibly and so forth, especially depending on what level of sleep you're in. So being asleep means that we're not fully aware of the space we're in, the reality that we're in, because we're asleep, where our eyes are closed. We can't close our ears physically like we can close our eyes, but our ears are sort of like off. You know, most of our senses are kind of like turned off a little bit. So consciousness in that sense is another level of being awake. So you can be asleep, right? But then when you're awake in the morning, your alarm clock goes off and you hit the button and you sit up and stretch and start getting yourself out of the bed to go get your shower and all that kind of stuff. Now you're awake. When you were asleep, you weren't seeing the walls of your room or whatever, the furniture, you know, you're not really experiencing earth the way that you are in your immediate surroundings, the way that you are when you are awake versus being asleep, right? Well, there's another level of awakeness, consciousness, awareness, where you can be aware not only of your existence on this earth and yourself as an earthling, but you can be aware of yourself as a spirit, an eternal spirit who's having a human experience in this particular moment in time, and that your eternal nature is never separate from God. Our spirits are never separate from God. So we're never separate from God. So child of God, daughter of light, but also light in the sense of consciousness, in the sense of awareness, being aware of our spiritual nature, not just that we have a spiritual nature, but aware of ourselves as spiritual beings as we're actually engaging in this life, and engaging in it with an awareness that our true nature is spirit. So literally there can be times when I'm looking out, I'm going to try to do it now, but it's a little hard when I'm looking at myself. I got the camera, reversed, so it's aiming at me. And so thank goodness for YouTube, where it's okay to just to be talking to yourself, right? So it's a little bit awkward to try to actually do it when I'm watching myself in the camera, but I can look out and at the same time sense myself as consciousness in a way that really can't be fully grasped. But as a spirit within the body, there's sometimes when I take deep breaths, because spirit is I believe, related to the word breath, or it means breath. That's why we say inspire, expire, inhale, exhale, but inspire and expire. Spire is related to spirit and breath. And there are moments when I just take a deep breath and I feel my just breath essence, and that's really who I am. But I also can look out and sense myself as a presence, not just sort of like a human being with a name and a body in a room looking at myself on a camera doing a YouTube video, but I can sense something deeper within myself. It's just this essential aspect, a non-physical aspect, my spiritual beingness that is here in this physical form as I'm looking out, as I'm moving and going about my day and having experiences. I can sort of like sense myself sort of like behind my eyes as like this awareness, this silent awareness, this silent presence that is always there and is seeing everything that this human is seeing and hearing everything that this human version of me is hearing. It's hard to explain because you really can't put your, hands on it. Like, how do you explain the breath? Like, there's this action that our lungs do and our diaphragm, but you can't really capture the breath. It's not even the air, right? The breath is sort of this really intangible aspect of who we are, our spirit. So consciousness in the sense of being aware of myself as that formless, intangible essence that is just present, a beingness that is distinct from my physical self, but is one with my physical self. So many of us, I think don't yet have that awareness of themselves as a presence and a being that is distinct from the physical person with a story that begins at their birth, and you can describe your life and so forth, but who you are and your essence existed before you came into this world and will exist when your time in this world ends. So that's also what I mean when I'm talking about light. Light in the sense of Jesus, God, the truth, but also them literally being light, like a source of energy that shines and illuminates the universe. So I truly believe that God is a being that radiates energy that is visible to our eyes. And the strange thing is that our eyes, our ability to see, we associate with these two things, in our head, but really we can see without our eyes. I'm thinking about our imaginations, for instance. Or I have once had an experience, a sort of out of body experience, where I realized that I'm looking out and seeing, and I'm aware of myself, and I'm not in that physical body that I know as Judith. So, God is literally light, as in radiant energy. And he came onto this earth in human form, born of the Virgin Mary, as Jesus, God with us, Emmanuel. And he is the truth. Light is the truth. Truth is light, and the truth shall set us free. And light is not just the radiant energy, it's also the consciousness, the awareness that allows us to realize and know that we are spirits that are at the same time distinct from and one with our physical forms. And that spiritual nature of who we are is always one with that source energy, with God. We're never separate from it, even when we're here having an experience. But unconsciousness is when we're not aware of that. We really sort of live in our heads and our bodies only, and we believe all of our thoughts, and we don't really have good control over our thoughts, management over our thoughts. So that level, that degree of consciousness that I'm speaking about in terms of light being consciousness, also lets us be aware of ourselves as an observer of our thoughts. As an observer of our thoughts, and again, distinct from and one with the mind and its, thinking patterns and so forth. We're thinkers as humans, analytical, critical, hopefully. But are we able to sort of like sense ourselves and have this awareness that's separate from our thought activity, that lets us know that we can monitor, we can manage, we can choose our thoughts, because we know that we are like this presence that is beyond our thoughts. That's our spirit. And that we have thoughts, a lot of them maybe not even our own, some of them fed to us or just absorbed from the atmosphere, maybe, whatever. So again, just sort of like talking a little bit about what I mean by light, and because I'm looking at the time now, I'm not really gonna speak so much about darkness, except that dark is just merely the absence of light. It's just the absence of light. darkness itself is not a thing in and of itself. It's simply a space that is lacking light. And so if we are concerned about where we are in this moment in time in history, especially here in the United States, and some people may describe this moment as dark, it's simply because there's an absence of light, if that's what we're experiencing is darkness. And so the solution is simply to bring in the light, shine the light, call in the light. Jesus, God, consciousness. Again, that's also Jesus and God, our consciousness, the ultimate, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, conscience, omniscience, like those are two related. So we're talking about the same thing, but God is the ultimate, unfathomable level of consciousness that gave birth to everything. That gave birth to everything. And is omnipresent with us, God with us, Emmanuel, and omnipotent, all powerful. The thunder, the lightning, the hurricane, the storms on the seas. So anyway, I'm watching the time. I'm going to try to not do too long. So I'm going to wrap it up right here and just leave this for you all to enjoy. And I hope that you do. Take care. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. Let's love one another. Let's love our neighbor. Till next time.